Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into one of the most inspiring stories of faith and courage from the Old Testament. This is the saga of a remarkable mother who defied oppression to protect her son, the future deliverer of Israel. Get ready to meet the extraordinary Jochebed and witness the birth of Moses. Scene 1. The context of oppression. The story begins in a dark time for the Hebrew people. Far from their homeland, the descendants of Jacob had multiplied greatly in Egypt, becoming a numerical force that the Pharaoh feared. Worried about their growing influence and a possible uprising, the Egyptian ruler imposed brutal slavery, turning them into mere servants forced to build store cities and endure harsh labor. The Hebrews' lives were full of bitterness, whip, and sweat, a life devoid of hope under the relentless yoke of the Pharaoh. But the oppressor's cruelty didn't stop there. In a desperate and wicked act, the Pharaoh issued a horrific decree. Every newborn Hebrew boy was to be thrown into the Nile, condemned to death to prevent the growth of the Hebrew male population. It was a planned genocide, an attempt to crush the spirit and future of an entire nation. Scene 2. The birth and hiding. Amid this terror and persecution, Jochebed appeared, a woman of the tribe of Levi, wife of Amram. She became pregnant and gave birth to a boy. When she saw the baby, Jochebed realized he was special, a child of unmatched beauty, a divine blessing in the darkness. Her unconditional love and unshakable faith drove her to defy the royal order. Moved by a courage only a mother can have, she decided to hide her son. For 3 long months, Jochebed kept Moses a secret, protecting him with all her being. Every muffled cry, every restrained sigh, every day lived under the constant threat of discovery and certain death. Scene 3. The basket in the Nile. But the time to hide Moses at home was coming to an end. The baby was growing, making it harder to keep him secret. With a heavy heart but unwavering faith, Jochebed devised a bold and desperate plan. She took a basket made of papyrus, coated it with tar and pitch to make it waterproof, and in an act of immense faith, placed little Moses inside. His destiny would not be the bottom of the Nile, but its banks, a place of surrender and trust in divine hands. Tenderly, she placed him among the reeds at the river's edge, where life and death meet. As the basket floated gently, Miriam, Moses' older sister, watched from a distance, her heart full of worry, but also quiet hope. Scene 4. The encounter and adoption. Like a miracle orchestrated by fate or divine providence, the Pharaoh's daughter came down to the Nile to bathe. Her eyes fell upon the basket among the reeds. Curious, she sent a servant to retrieve it. When she opened the basket, the princess found the baby crying. In a moment of deep compassion, she recognized him as one of the Hebrew children, yet her heart melted at the sight of this helpless little boy. It was then that Miriam, with youthful cleverness, approached her. "Do you want me to call a Hebrew woman to nurse the boy?" she asked, offering a divine solution. The princess agreed, and Miriam ran to fetch her own mother, Jochebed. Thus, Moses' very own mother was hired to nurse him under the protection of the palace, even receiving a salary for it. An unimaginable twist. Back in his mother's arms, Moses was nourished and cared for. During this crucial time, Jochebed not only nourished him physically, but also instilled in him the awareness of his true heritage. She spoke to him about the God of his ancestors, about the promise, and about the oppression of his people. Though he was growing up in the Egyptian court, surrounded by luxury and opulence, Moses' heart was being shaped by his biological mother, who taught him about his Hebrew roots. Later, when Moses grew up, Jochebed returned him to the Pharaoh's daughter, who officially adopted him as her son. He was named Moses, which means drawn from the water, and spent his youth and early adulthood learning all the wisdom of the Egyptians in the very court he would one day challenge. Scene 5. The legacy of Jochebed and Moses' destiny. Jochebed's story does not end with just saving her son. Her courage, faith, and unwavering love laid the foundation for the leadership Moses would later exercise. She showed that even in extreme oppression, faith and determined action can change the course of history. Moses, protected and educated, carried with him the teachings of his mother, who never let him forget who he truly was and the purpose God had for him. This mother-son bond shaped the man who would free the Hebrews from slavery and lead his people to freedom. Scene 6. Final reflection. When we remember the story of Jochebed and Moses, we are reminded of the power of faith, courage, and hope. Every act of love and bravery, even in the face of fear, can become a seed of transformation. Jochebed teaches us that sometimes saving one life is the first step to saving an entire nation, and that faith is not just believing, but acting with determination, even when everything seems lost. So next time you feel small in the face of challenges, remember Jochebed. One act of courage can change destiny. And who knows, like Moses, you might become an instrument of liberation and hope for many. If this story inspired you, share and tell us in the comments. What act of faith or courage has marked your life? Let's spread stories of hope and inspiration together.